What is a positive outcome that resulted from a tragic moment of your life? I was diagnosed with a brain condition that left me nearly blind, had surgery to save my sight, and decided to train as a nurse and spend the rest of my life helping other people because the nurses that took care of me were phenomenal. Nurses are my heroes. Thank you for being one. I had several tragic moments that led to a great outcome. When I was 7, my dad, my hero, my protector and my best friend, was killed in a military accident. I was raised by my controlling, mentally ill mother and by her controlling, mentally ill mother. When I was 13 I started smoking cigarettes. When I was 15 I started doing drugs. By the time I was 17 I was addicted to drugs. When I was 18, I started as a freshman at East Carolina University, and after my first semester, ECU threatened to kick me out if I didn't bring my grades up. I couldn't stand the idea of having to go back home, so I suddenly had a reason to get clean. I focused on school and discovered I wasn't as stupid as I thought. I became an honors student. I started hanging out with nice people who didn't do drugs and made some lasting friendships. I quit smoking. I started running. I found direction and purpose. Today, I am an attorney and I have my own small law firm. I have 2 beautiful daughters, a lovely wife who graciously puts up with my addictive tendencies, and an affectionate dachshund who looks up to me as a hero, protector and best friend. I love your feel-good story. It's sad about your mom and grandmother, but it's good that you took care of yourself. I lost both my parents in a car crash. I lost the person who abused, raped, tortured me as a child. I gained my freedom for the first time in my life. I miss my ma, but at least she doesn't have to suffer his violence anymore either. This is the most I've ever told as a coherent tale. I wasted so much time feeling less than, dirty, broken. Turns out I am doing alright. Life is strange. Good night, time for bed. Thanks so much. I don't feel like such an alien outsider. Whoa, that is powerful. I can't imagine the conflicting feelings you must have gone through. This post is good for one free internet hug. I was raped when I was 13 by a serial rapist. I was the only one of his victims who did anything about it, and he is in jail now for 14 years. I'm glad I could prevent him from doing it again, even if it's just for now, and I had to go through heck to do it. I watched both my mom and dad take their last breaths by the age of 21. It changed everything in my life and made me appreciate the little things. Realizing dealing with this now. Brother-in-law committed suicide in May, so we packed up and headed back to TN for the funeral. We're in a CA. Most of the extended family is an MD, and they all came. What was incredibly cool was that my son, who is 13 months old, got to meet all of his family that he had never seen before. He also got to meet his great-grandmother, who died 2 weeks later. The reason for the family reunion sucked, but getting to see so many people that we loved was awesome. My fiance hung himself in 2010. 2 years prior I had started using crack, and in the long run I lost my kids due to the guy I was with at that time beating the crap out of my oldest daughter, then 6. And well, I also lost everything else. That event led up to that psycho getting out of jail from those charges, and he tried to kill me. I met the guy that hung himself shortly after all that happened and just continued further down the spiral. We were very close, but the drugs had taken us both over and we were not ourselves at all anymore. It got bad rather quickly, and eventually I came home to him in the living room. Since he died, I got clean off the drug, gained custody back of my oldest child, steady weekends with the other 2, and will be finished with my bachelor's in business administration come May of next year. It was a tough ride out of the wormhole, and I didn't have a lot of support because of the prior lifestyle I had chose to live. Now that has all turned around, and I just try to stay positive with everything I encounter. It has been really rough on me, and I still think about him all the time. When it happened I felt like part of me died. I needed to learn to grow back into myself. It has taken some time, but I am finally able to talk more about it and not break down. I have 940 days clean as of today. Congrats. Hitting rock bottom as an alcoholic, I reached a point where I felt completely alone, helpless, worthless, and hopeless. I contemplated killing myself. Instead, I stopped digging, admitted defeat, shelved my ego, and asked for the help I needed. As a result, gradually, I'm now able to see the world with gratitude and appreciation and love. I can appreciate the littlest things that, previously, would have gone unnoticed or unappreciated. The things I would have thought to be silly or useless. Simple things, like a bird landing on a branch or an old couple holding hands or the way a cold grape feels when I bite down on it or that part in Aqualung where it slows down and goes dee 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 dee. Anything, really, everything. Actually, I feel like I was living in a self-imposed matrix, and it wasn't until I burned down the forest that I was able to drop my blinders and see the world around me. It allowed me to redefine my entire schema and shift my priorities into what I now feel really matters. TLDR. Alcoholism almost killed me. Instead, it actually gave me rebirth. I was about to write almost the same thing. I hated myself, my life, my future prospects, etc. Stopped drinking after hitting rock bottom. Lost 30 pounds. Ran a half marathon. Met my husband. Had a baby. Got another degree. Life is so dang better without it. Got pregnant to my now ex-boyfriend after 4 months of dating. Had an abortion. Downside, that crap fricked me up emotionally and was something I never, ever want to relive. Upside, had my first pap smear during said abortion and abnormal cells were found. Found out I had some too. Had an operation to remove cells that could have caused cancer. Have been going back to get regular checkups to make sure the cells haven't returned. I like to believe that it happened to save my life. I'm going to skip the whole story and just give you a TLDR. Got into drugs, ended up homeless, sink or swim, got my crap together, am now independent and happy, have job, have own apartment, LG. My parents divorce. My mom has since remarried an amazing man who is a huge role model in my life and someone I always try to emulate. So I pretty much have 2 dads now. Plus the whole double Christmas presents thing is a huge perk. Yay. 2 Christmases. A couple of months ago, I lost my Thomas the Tank Engine socks, and though I have over 100 pairs of socks, don't hate the player, hate the game. They were my favorite pair, largely because of how incredibly comfortable they were, but also because of Thomas' smiling face adorning the leg of the sock. Naturally, I was utterly distraught when I couldn't find them in my drawer. I looked everywhere but to no avail, though while searching I did find a £10 note in an old pair of trousers. I spent it all on 10p mini bags of Haribo and distributed them to the children on my street. It brought them unbridled joy, and it's what Thomas would have wanted. I saw it as a fitting send-off. P.S. If you're out there, Thomas, you'll forever be a part of me. Choo choo. Sweet Prince. I found this to be the most inspiring comment here. My suicide attempt. Staring at myself in the mirror, just me and a bottle of pills. The pills that take the pain away. Just looking at myself, seeing how scared and confused I was, I kept repeating "you're not worth it" and got the courage to swallow those 20 pills. That was a month ago. Now I am slowly learning to love myself and trying to understand the world and why my dad is so angry. One day at a time, friend. You are worth it. You are so worth it. I had anorexia and worked insanely hard to recover. My then boyfriend left me after I got out of treatment because I was too fat. If none of this happened, I would have never met my current boyfriend and soulmate, so in my eyes the pain was totally worth it and I feel like I can accomplish anything now. Your ex was clearly a colossal jackass. I had to flee the house I was living in this spring. The house started having major issues, plumbing backing up, plants growing through the floor, and when I tried to discuss it with the landlady, she went full psycho on me. It was the first time I hadn't had a place where I could have a garden in years. I have been very mobile most of my life, and I've always wanted a garden to call my own. I had worked hours in the backyard amending the soil. I had bought seeds, tools, straw. I had everything lined up to have the most badass vegetable garden you could imagine. Then we had to move. I knew I was going to miss the growing season. We have a short window of when we can get things planted around here. And I had all this stuff and I was a little heartbroken. So I started a community garden in a poor neighborhood with my supplies. It was surprisingly easy. I got space and water donated by the city, an abandoned lot with a water spigot. I called Home Depot, and they hooked me up with soil, raised beds, and a lot of other supplies. I got in touch with the Boys and Girls Club, and I work with people coming out of prison who suffer from addiction, so it quickly became a sort of recreational and therapy garden, and we're hoping to open up space to locals pretty soon. It's awesome. Whenever I'm there, all the kids in the neighborhood come by to help and munch on tomatoes. My clients in recovery apparently talk about their garden all the time. They really love nursing the rattiest looking plants back to life. I think it is meaningful for them. It's not exactly a garden I can call my own, but in some ways, it's better that way. Excellent. This is a front page question. I would say the loss of my mother-in-law 3 months before the birth of my son was pretty tragic, but we've seen that we all now have a deeper appreciation of who we are as a family and the positive influence my son's grandmother had on all of us. Sorry for your loss, but it is a good thing to have these reminders that we shouldn't take life for granted and to cherish those around us. As a child, my father was a mean drunk. His favorite hobbies were downing a bottle of Jack and beating my mother and I. When I was 5, I tried to stop him while he was beating my mother. This turned his attention to me, as he was stomping my rib cage. My mother finally called the cops. It cost me 3 broken ribs, a broken collarbone and a kidney, but he finally ended up in jail and the two got divorced. Silver linings, you know? That's good. That's a very good thing. One of my best friends from high school overdosed on H just after his 21st birthday when he was trying to get clean. His friends, including me, had given up on him one by one in the couple of years preceding. I still feel I made the right personal decisions at the time, but I wish it hadn't been that way. It made me realize nobody can save you from yourself, and there are lots of ways to go to waste. My plan to just finish college and see what happens suddenly disgusted me. Within 2 months I reinvented my entire college career, took up TOing, became a tutor and a student advisor, and started volunteering at an experimental laboratory. Today I'm in a PhD program and expecting to find a way to use what I've earned and learned to make a real impact in either science or society. All thanks to Mike. I wish we hadn't lost him, but I'm incredibly thankful for the perspective that loss gave me. Lost a baby with a guy I wasn't in love with. Several months later became reacquainted with a super handsome and sweet guy who I've been dating ever since. Either way, I wanna give you a huge hug. Grew up poor. Mum died in a car accident when I was 12. Left me her social security benefits. Never would have afforded college without them. Also was able to join the school band and buy a clarinet several months after she died. I still play today, paying gigs and all. My grandma was pretty frequently sick later on in her life. One day, she passed away. Fast forward a few days and my uncle found out she gave him her house. It was really old, but it was still better than the trailer he was living in. Even better, it was just across the road, so he and my cousin moved in. The night after they moved in, a huge tree crashed into their trailer right where they would have been sleeping. TLDR, my grandmother's death saved 2 lives. My dad died when I was 15. My brother was heavy into drugs and it all completely broke my mom. This forced me to become a man pretty quickly. I became very responsible for my age, working hard at part-time jobs while keeping A's and B's, and wasn't sweating the drama that a lot of my peers were wrapped up in. Didn't have much of a choice, but I think it was good for me. I also think it gave me a stronger voice as a writer, and has motivated me to stay in shape so I don't put my own family through the same devastation. It's not that bad compared to other people's stories, but it's one that I'm surprised has a positive outcome. I went out with this girl when I was younger. For a long time, my life was completely devoted to hers, and hers to mine. Or so I thought. We talked about getting married seriously, and how our lives will be once we graduated undergrad and moved in together. Since I was young when we started dating, we grew up together and grew into each other. She wasn't good at making friends, so I guess I was all she really had. Once she graduated, she moved and made new friends. She really didn't need me in her life anymore, so we broke up. I didn't really see it coming. By that point, She was in my life for over 5 years. Almost a quarter of my whole life was spent in a relationship with this woman. I was stressed about my graduating projects, which I thought I was going to fail as well. I had no girl, no life, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going to graduate. I picked up smoking and I drank a lot. Even after I graduated, I was still so hung up on her that I drank constantly. I spent every weekend drunk, and some weeknights drunk too. Fast forward to now, I decided to travel to forget about her, and I got hooked. I made many new friends, and I did all the things I wanted to do that she didn't. I backpacked around Europe. I'm taking painting classes. I'm learning a new language. I'm doing a master's degree. I became more confident in myself and realized that I don't need someone in my life. I became better with women after many failed attempts, which only adds to my confidence. Looking back now, if I continued to be in a relationship with her, I would have lost all sense of me, because who I was dependent on who she was. We were two objects that had to lean on one another. Now, I'm an object that stands alone. Maybe wobbles at times, but for the most part, I don't need to be reliant on others. TL. DR. Girl left boy. Boy feels empty. Boy fills empty hole with awesomeness and stops being empty. True story. I'd preface this with saying that everything is relative. My story doesn't involve the death of a child or any tragic in the usual sense. It's much more mundane than that. I interviewed for a job with Amazon. I went through the whole process. Elle was interviewed by around 10 different people. I was flown out there to have a site tour, the whole deal. The hiring manager and HR manager were both talking to me about where I should look for a house in town. I was elated as I left. I felt like I was getting the job for sure. I even called my wife to tell her that I killed it in the interview. A week later, they call me and say they're going in a different direction. I ask why, but they have a strict no feedback policy. No reason given. No feedback. Just, go frick yourself. It was like getting punched in the gut. It was the single most disappointing moment of my adult life. So time goes on and I slowly get over it. In the meantime, my wife and I start concentrating on ourselves and our relationship a bit more than we had been. Due to intense job searching, we lay out more concrete goals for our life together and with our kids. My wife starts to get in better shape. We start eating right and working out together. Her viewpoint on healthy living evolves, and we steer our life in much healthier direction. I know that we could have done that either way, but we were too busy concentrating on jobs, money, etc. Had I gotten that job, I feel that we wouldn't have made these much needed changes in our life. Yup. It seemed I had the edge on 2 jobs, then someone quit or got hired and they changed the direction they were going in. Got an offer at another job that I turned down. The guy that I turned down gave my resume to a headhunter who got me an interview with my current employer. Probably the best place I could have landed. My first experience with anxiety, on the verge of a panic attack for an entire week. Thought I was going insane. Thought I would never get back to normal. I now have a greater appreciation and understanding for mental health, and what the importance and meaning of life could be. I still get anxious, but I'm better off now than I was before, I reckon. I grew up without my dad and my mom has always been my biggest fan and support system. A few months ago, my beloved mother was diagnosed with cancer and is currently undergoing chemo. When she first told me over the phone, I collapsed, sobbed until I couldn't breathe and thought about everything she'd miss if she died. All in the matter of minutes, like my future life without her flashed before my eyes. Her response: "I'm going to get off the phone, go to the bathroom and call you back. When I do, you will have stopped crying." Jesus. It's not like you have cancer and she hung up the phone. What this taught me: listening is hard. People don't often just listen to one another. They're always trying to relate the conversation to themselves. But without truly listening, speaking no longer heals. The first duty of love is to listen. I call my mom every day and thank the universe that I still have time to listen. I got fricked over by my friend group of 2 years in high school when somebody died. It was horrible. Found out my GF was cheating on me with the guy who died. She broke up with me because of it. 3 days later, my best friend helped her and 2 of my other friends break into his house to steal his stuff. And when I confronted them about it, I lost everyone as friends. The positive. 6 years later I'm not friends with a single one of those pieces of crap people. I was depressed and decided to end it. I went out back to the nylon rope we had hanging from an overhang on our garage for swinging. The fun kind. Not the kind I wanted to do. And tied a knot so I could hang myself. I didn't have internet in 1994, so no tutorials on nooses. I put my head in and the world slowly went black. Eventually I woke up on the ground. My head slipped out because I made the hole too large. I was 12-13 at the time. I guess the positive is that I failed, got help, and got better. Today I have a great career, a loving wife, and the most amazing 3-year-old son. I have 20 years of experiences ranging from hiking and biking to my son giggling when we play at the park. I think back and I realize that I am living a life that so many children don't get to see because they never slipped out of their nose. The woman I loved was taking in the view at the top of a waterfall. She slipped, fell off the cliff, and died. I spent quite a while lost, desperately clinging to and grabbing for anything I could find of her that still remained in this world. Eventually, in my searching for her, I ended up finding myself. Her death was the catalyst for a series of life changes that set me on the path I've been following ever since, and I love my life. This is hauntingly beautiful. When I was 16, my dad died from cirrhosis of the liver. He was an alcoholic all my life, and was on disability when he passed. Because of his passing before I was 18 and him being on disability, I received a payout for his child support of roughly $50,000. This put me through college. My sister and I inherited his house as well and rented it out for the past few years to pay down the mortgage. We sold the property this summer and my wife and I used my portion as a down payment to purchase our first home, and I'm currently painting it this week. I miss my dad and would trade it all away to still have him, but in this economy, his tragic passing, he was 49, provided me a jump start on life. Also because of his alcohol abuse, I am extremely careful around alcohol. I can appreciate a good beer but never have been and never will be drunk. Was broke, homeless, jobless, tried to kill myself, ended up in a mental health facility where I met my wife, got out and got a great job I've been at ever since, bought a house, and we've been together for almost 9 years since and couldn't be happier. My dad abused and neglected me for years after my mom died. Wound up getting an awesome stepmom who protected me and loved me unconditionally. Wrote about the whole situation for my college essays and am now going to a great university with a full scholarship. My husband passed away from a H overdose a year after we were separated and had both been seeing other people. I kept trying to get him to come to court so we could finalize our divorce, and he would never show due to constantly being in rehab, hospitals, or wherever it is that junkies go when they don't want to deal with their problems. During this time of waiting, I became pregnant with my son, with a man I had been seeing while separated. When he passed away I was devastated, but relieved that I could finally move on with my life and live the life I had always wanted. Son worrying about drugs and suicide attempts. Harsh, I know, but my life with my family and new husband is seriously wonderful now. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.